Okay, please welcome Ryan Morales, candidate for Commissioner of Agriculture in the Democratic race. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks for having me here.
Centerpiece of your campaign, your platform focuses on the legalization of recreational marijuana and also magic mushrooms or psychedelic medicines.
That's part of it, but I'm also focusing on clean waters and the environment, and that's really where I'm hyper-focused on.
With respect to recreational marijuana and the mushrooms, though, if that is so important to you, why not run for the legislature as you've done in the past? Because you wouldn't have power as a Secretary or Commissioner of Agriculture to change those laws.
We understand that, but we know that in this position we would also be able to influence and help push that along a little further. So for me, it's not just about continuing to push that fight. And really, the mushroom fight is a new fight. It's something that has been brought to my attention by veterans themselves because they see the fact that we're able to cure people with opioid addictions much faster than with anything else.
On clean water, you're advocating for conversion of residential lawns to gardens, which is a noble pursuit. Would you support additional restrictions or an outright ban on residential use of fertilizer on lawns to prevent the nutrient runoff?
We're looking at actually helping educate people on how to actually properly fertilize. Because it's not about removing fertilization, it's about using it the right amount, because anything more than that is basically money down the drain.
You're running on your prowess as a business manager and your ingenuity as such. But in looking through your campaign documents, there have been several different audits for missing numbers in your campaign finance disclosures and letters in which you state, well, you made this mistake or that mistake. You faced fines as well. What went wrong, number one? And two, how can you assure voters that if you miss on what may be comparatively little things, you won't miss on big things in running the State Department of Agriculture?
So funny enough, it's just been mostly myself running the campaign, so I'm doing the job of 20 people. So I happened to miss a deadline that I didn't realize that we were starting the weekly notifications, so that's where I messed up. But I've since then regained and picked up and gotten everything back on schedule. So, it's a typical thing that happens with the campaigns. It's just sometimes we're only a one-man show and we're trying to do everything we can, especially with the statewide campaign. It's a big thing. So, we got help now, and that's been helping out and making us, do everything now on time.
Heading into the month of August, you raised around $15,000, which is on par with your Democratic rivals, but it's eclipsed by what one of the leading candidates in the Republican race has raised, some $2 million. If you win the nomination, how could you possibly expect to compete with that and therefore expect to win?
Well, sadly, in politics, it's the primary is what holds up a lot of the fundraising because people are not sure where to put their money yet. So we know that once we get past this primary, we will see the money that we need, and we've been working with some of the, some people with money to help us out to continue to move things along. So we're basically just moving along, chugging along, making sure that we get past this primary so that way we can actually get the help that we need because we know it's there.
You've called for an expansion of background checks and other gun restrictions. What other specific restrictions on guns do you have in mind?
I believe in responsible gun ownership. Education for me is key when it comes to gun ownership. So it's not really about restrictions, but more about educating. I want to further educate people. I want to make sure that people are responsible gun owners. I've asked for the addition of social media checks and the next of kin and spousal approval, which is done in many other states, including places like Maine and Utah, who are big gun states. I believe it's just a nice, or should I say not a nice, but a good layer of security.
What if the spouse or next of kin is one who is estranged and posing a threat to the individual who wants to buy a gun?
You know what? That's a good question, and these are things that we would have to figure out because the next of kin or spousal would have to be somebody that lives with the person, from my understanding in this matter. And we had an issue with it recently with the Illinois July 4th. The gentleman who shot up the place, his father actually signed off for him. So that was that layer, and they're looking at potentially filing charges against the father because of that, because he signed off on the son, and that's an accountability issue.
We have a crisis with respect to citrus greening.
Yes.
We also have a crisis with large invasive snails in our community. How did those happen? Was the state caught off guard? What would you have done differently, if anything, and what would you do now?
Well, the snail situation, from my understanding, was somebody brought them in, and it could have came in somebody's luggage. It could have came in somebody's, just basic flying thing. So it's one of the hardest things to avoid when it comes to the invasive species battle. So the best that we could do is really implement as much technology as we can, because there is technology available now to help us with this. And really, I believe that's what's Nikki's help, as well as some natural helpers. Dogs are really good at helping sniff out some of these animals. So look forward to actually using more things like that, dogs, goats, things that can actually really help us without having to constantly use other things. So technology, things like that are going to be key in making sure that we exterminate all these species, including the Brazilian pepper nut and things like that are plants that are invasive. So it's not just animals or things like that, it's more. So we've got to do better. Is it something that the state has dropped their pants on? Not really. It's just tough. You got so many people flying in on a daily basis. You can't catch everything. And you know what? You got to commend the people that do work at the airports, because they do a really good job of doing the best that they can. We have the top gear over there to scan for this stuff, but you're going to get something that's going to slip through once in a blue moon. So, I'm thankful that we have a great team out there with FDACS helping stop this. So, they're doing a great job, and I wish to continue to make sure that we stop this and get rid of all these invasive species.
Ryan Morales, thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you, Craig.